Good evening, everyone, and may I warmly welcome you to the 5th Annual Public Lecture in Entrepreneurship. My name is Gary McEwen, and I'm the Honorary Professor of Entrepreneurship here at the University of Dundee. This is one of the real highlights of the university calendar, and we're joined this evening by an enormous and truly global audience which spans many time zones, including the USA, Brazil, Singapore, Mexico, Bolivia, the Cayman Islands, even as far as Australia. And so for some of you, and I apologise for this, it must be a very early start to your day. You're all very welcome to Scotland and to the University of Dundee. The city of Dundee is fast becoming one of the most vibrant cities in Scotland, which is in no small measure driven by and fitting for a university recognised by the Times Higher Education University Impact Ratings as 44th in the world. An integral part of our university is our Centre for Entrepreneurship, which in the last 5 years has become the entrepreneurial heartbeat not only of the university but the entire city. The facility was created to provide support, advice and inspiration to those with a desire to make their own way in business. It educates and accelerates the development of ventures in many, many ways. For our university, this is Entrepreneurship Week, a week full of activities and events which are open to everyone, so do feel free to join us over the next few days. This evening we find ourselves at the midway point, indeed the highlight of the week, when we get an insight into the very personal journey of someone who has embraced opportunity, followed their passion, and created something very special indeed. This is our 5th such public lecture in entrepreneurship, and without exception, our speakers have inspired the university and the wider community. They repeatedly show us what can be achieved if we can develop an entrepreneurial mindset to complement personal passion and determination. With several thousand people registered to attend this evening, I'm sure you'll make good use of social media to share your own thoughts. If you do, please use the hashtag that you can see on the screen just now. It will make an appearance from time to time. And just a few other housekeeping points, if I may. While we're live, captions can be switched on in Teams, and you'll find instructions on how to do that in the Q&A box. We're recording this event and everyone will be able to receive a link via email in due course. The lecture you'll shortly enjoy will last for around 40 minutes, and then there'll be an opportunity for some questions from you, chaired by our principal. So please submit your questions using the Q&A text box, and we'll try to squeeze as many of those questions in as possible. Finally, we'll conclude with a vote of thanks from our Dean of Art and Design. I'd now like to personally welcome our new principal, Professor Ian Gillespie, to the university. A principal, I am delighted to say, shares my passion for enterprise and entrepreneurship. So welcome, Professor Gillespie, and we look forward to your introduction of our guest speaker tonight.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Gary, and thank you for these kind words. And welcome to everyone around the world. It's truly humbling to speak to so many of you from so many corners of the globe. Of course, Dundee is a global city, and the University of Dundee is a global university. But really, the global reach of our university, when I look at the global reach of our guest speaker tonight, Johanna Basford OBE, and I'm in awe. Johanna hails from Aberdeenshire, but she quite rightly and very cleverly made the journey to Dundee. And she studied at the University of Dundee in the Duncan of Jordanson College of Art and Design, DJ CAD as we affectionately call it. And she graduated in 2005 with a degree in textile design. But Johanna was restless, and I think Johanna still is restless. I think you're going to get this from her when she speaks to you. She regards herself as an evangelist, and I think she really is an evangelist. She turned her back on manufacturing and selling textiles. From her own apartment, from a corner of her kitchen, she designed wallpapers. And then, of course, she was one of the great pioneers of colouring books for adults. And I'm sure everyone has reached to Johanna's work over the period of the last year during this COVID lockdown to bring us some solace and some light and colour in our own lives. Johanna likes to talk about preferring pens and pencils to pixels. She says that she finds computer-generated graphics cold and soulless. Well, I hope that Johanna doesn't find a computer screen cold and soulless, because sadly with lockdown, that's the way that we have to welcome her tonight. But the advantage is that she reaches all around the world through this fantastic new medium, which is one of the great things. There are few that have come out of the situation that we're in now. In terms of her career, well, there are a few high spots that of course I must mention. In 2013, she had her first solo exhibition, Wonderlands. And where she held it? Of course, here in Dundee, at Dundee Contemporary Arts. In 2016, she was recognised with an OBE for her services to art and to entrepreneurship. And that's why she's here tonight, to show us that entrepreneurial spirit, that determination, that restlessness, that creativity that she's brought so much inspiration to so many of us. And of course, she's a world record holder. She holds a Guinness World Record, which she won in 2019 for the largest drawing ever done by an individual. Of course, she's not a one-trick pony. Johanna's worked for such global brands as iPhone, Sony, Nike, Starbucks, and also the Tate Modern. So she brings that creativity and that art that hopefully we inspired her with at DJ CAD when she was a student, home at all levels. She is an entrepreneur. She is an alumnus of our university. She is an inspiration to all of us, and she makes me incredibly proud of this university that I serve. Without further ado, I give you Johanna Basford.
Thank you very much. That was a wonderful introduction, and it's lovely to be here. So, hi, my name is Johanna Basford. I'm an illustrator and ink evangelist, and this is not actually the first talk I've done back at Dundee since I graduated, but it's the first one not in the art school, and my imposter syndrome is absolutely through the roof. So I think we're best to just dive in. So this is me, illustrator, ink evangelist, and colouring book maker. And I'm probably best known for my signature style of artwork, which is hand-drawn, black and white, nature-inspired, and super intricate. And in this talk, I'm going to speak a little bit about my journey, what I do, the stuff I make, the stuff that's gone well, and the epic fails, and a few things in between. So to start off, this is my sliding doors moment of life. It was 1986, and for some reason, my dad was painting the underside of our Subaru estate car with this black tar paint, and he left the pot of paint and the paintbrush in our hallway, which had a nice white wood chip wall because it was the 80s, and along came 3-year-old me and created my first public piece of art, a black and white mural. And looking back, I don't remember any shouting or getting into any trouble. And I often think that perhaps if my mum and dad had been a bit more precious about that hallway and had unleashed the wrath, I would not have pursued a career in creativity, particularly not one that's centered around black and white art. So I think that was where it all began. And then a decade and a half later, I found myself here at Dunkerque Jordanston, where I did my degree in printed textiles. And I'm frequently asked why I didn't do illustration, and that's why. The illustration department is in the basement. I didn't really fancy a few years down there, whereas textiles was upstairs in the sunshine. And I absolutely loved my time at Duncan Jordanstone. It was a fantastic creative melting pot of people and ideas. And I think, like most people, most art students, I spent the first couple of years mucking around a bit, getting to know what was going on, trying a bit of everything. And then I really buckled down and got quite analytical with what I wanted to do with my time there. In my geekiest moment, I calculated to the hour how long I would have for my final year to make my final collection, and then worked out how much more time I would have if I came in with the cleaners at 6 a.m, left with the janitors at 9 p.m, and didn't have any tea breaks and ate my lunch at my desk. That was how determined I was to squeeze every last bit of time out of my final year at Duncan Jordanstone. And while there in fourth year, I developed this signature style of artwork, and like so much creativity, it was born of necessity. So we were studying textiles, and my department had got its first digital printer. And as some of you have the pleasure of knowing, I am horrendous with technology. So I really struggled to get to grips with this printer. I didn't have my own computer at the time. I couldn't do any of the things that you needed to do to make digitally printed textiles. So I wandered back through to the screen printing studio, and that was where I made my final collection. And if you know anything about screen printing, you'll know it's a series of layers, a bit like a stencil, and every color has a separate layer. And the more colors, the more layers, the more expensive it is, the trickier it is to print. So being perpetually broke, I thought I would do single color prints because they're going to be the cheapest. And I would make up for the lack of color by making them super detailed. So I drew all these really intricate hand-drawn illustrations, and I printed them in black and white. And the result was a completely monochrome final year collection. And the funny effect of that was I'd had to ignore all the trend forecasting websites. So that's where they tell you next year's all going to be about lemon yellow and purple, or all we want to see is digitally manipulated pictures of architecture. And I had this really weird black and white collection, and it stood out like a sore thumb, which was actually quite useful in the end. I often think if you see a bandwagon, it's too late to jump. So I don't really understand the point of those trend forecasting websites. We got to fourth year, and as graduation approached, I hustled and got super proactive in contacting people that I wanted to work with, people that I thought might like to see my work. I set up my own website, which at the time was quite an unusual step. And I managed to line up some internships, some press, got a few job offers. And unusually, I got a few orders, people that wanted my artwork on stuff like prints, wallpapers. So I decided what I was going to do, and I thought the best thing to do would be to move to London. So I did that and worked commercially in a few different studios, just interning, and absolutely hated it. I hated every single second of it. I just wasn't cut out for London. So I moved back home, and I had this niggle, should I try and look for another job somewhere else, or should I start to sell my own work? And I was getting requests for this. So I sought some funding, got it, and set up my first printmaking studio in a shed at my mum and dad's house up in Aberdeen. And then later I moved it to an industrial estate back in Dundee. And I'd interned with Timorous Beasties for a little while in Glasgow, and I pretty much copied their business model. I wanted to make hand-printed wallpapers, fabrics, and lighting. So this was the first collection that I did. And I was working part-time at the time. So I would have several jobs, waitressing in shops, all that kind of stuff. And I was doing this on the side. And it looked great. I was getting loads of great press. I got awards. I got an award from Elle Decoration and one from Channel 4. Everything looked great on the outside, but financially it was awful. I think I was making a loss every time I sold a roll of wallpaper. I definitely wasn't earning any money from it. And I soon discovered that I actually really hated manufacturing. And it was manufacturing. The thing that I loved was doing the drawing. And once you've done the drawing once, after that, it just got a bit repetitive. So I was in this funny kind of place. this is what we call the Swedish castle incident, and it was the catalyst for change. So I got an order from a very fancy interior designer who was refurbishing an entire castle in Sweden, and they wanted so much wallpaper. And it should have been the best moment when I opened that email and saw the order. And I saw it and my heart was pounding, and I was completely overwhelmed at the thought of having to make all this wallpaper. And I began to cry. I was like, this is a sign. Perhaps this is not going the way it should do. So in true style, I got through that order and then collapsed in a heap and thought, we need to make some changes. So luckily for me, the 2007 credit crunch came along, and with that recession, all my clients dried up. There were no more fancy interior designers taking on multi-million-pound projects. The really expensive homes that I'd been working for, they weren't doing any more work. Even fancy hotels that used to use my wallpapers in them, or boutiques that would have them in their changing rooms, nobody wanted super expensive hand-printed wallpapers anymore. I had no clients and I was completely broke. I lived off a lot of Tesco value tinned tomatoes on toast. It was grim times. So I decided to make the decision to shut the printmaking studio. I shut the studio doors, sold all my equipment, and moved to a little IKEA desk in the corner of my one-bedroom flat in Dundee, and decided I was going to be a freelance illustrator. So I had 2 part-time jobs at that time, again, waitressing and working in a shop. And then all the hours that I wasn't working, I was doing this illustration gig because I had no clients at the start, nothing was paid. I just knew I had to start. So I started to refine this hand-drawn style of artwork that I'd begun in art school, and everything I did was hand-drawn with these Staedtler pens, which is important. We'll come back to that later. But those pens I discovered when I was at art school because they were the cheapest, best quality pen I could buy from the little art supply shop in the art school, and everything I did was created with them. Agents and advisors and so many clients even would look at my work and recommend that I should diversify my portfolio. They would say to me, your work's really good and we can use it maybe for this or this, but it would be great if you could do some stuff in colour. It would be amazing to see some character work or some typography, or something that's been computer generated. You don't want to be a one-trick pony, which made me laugh when Ian said that I wasn't, because I very much think I am a one-trick pony, and I like being a one-trick pony. I wanted to be that girl that did the black and white hand-drawn artwork, so that if a client needed something that was, black and white and floral, they would just immediately think of me. I wanted to be that girl. So for me, having a niche was super important. So still super broke at this point, and I thought I'd heard a story about Richard Branson doing a thing, and I copied it. I wrote myself a check, and in my case it was for £20,000. I suspect Richard Branson's was for more. And I forward dated it 1 year, and I stuck it to the fridge in my flat. And my friends would come in and see that this check stuck to the front of the fridge and be like, are you really going to cash that? I said, yeah, I am. And by that point, I hadn't paid myself anything from the business, but I knew I just had to work towards the date on that check to pay myself that £20,000. I have to say, I've never found any evidence that Richard Branson did do that. I think it's maybe an urban myth, but it worked for me. So I was working like the clappers to make sure there was going to be enough money to pay myself that, and I hustled. I would send my work to anyone who would look at it, and even the people that didn't want to look at it, I was sending work to. I would go on commission missions where I would finish my part-time job, jump on the overnight mega bus to London, wake up in London, go around a million different people, different appointments, show them my artwork, get in a mega bus again overnight, back up to Scotland, and then go back to my part-time job. It was an interesting way to spend your day off. But I would just wait and wait and wait and speak to people and show them my work and ask them if they would consider me for any upcoming projects. So this is a few examples of the stuff that I was doing. as you can see, really floral. Still got the echoes of the stuff that I was doing at Duncan at Jordanston. About then, I doubled down on self-initiated projects. So these are projects that you do that nobody has specifically asked you to do. But I quickly discovered that the work in your portfolio is the work that you get commissioned to do. So there's no point in having a portfolio like mine and going, I really want to do fashion illustration. You have to do the work and have it there and show off your skills. You also have to get on people's radar. It's a really competitive field. So I developed a few different projects which sort of met both those criteria. So here's three. First off, we have Twitter picture. So this was when Twitter was relatively new, which makes me sound horrifically old. But back then, people mainly used it to sort of convey what they had for lunch. It wasn't the angry place that it is these days. But I saw its potential as a co-creation tool. So I suggested to folk, why don't you tweet me an idea of what you would like me to draw, use the hashtag Twitter picture, and then I will duly draw it. And I would do this over a period of 12 hours, 2 days, sometimes I'd live stream it. And it got the attention of art directors, editors, buyers, folk that were on Twitter at the time, which led on to being commissioned to doing the 2010 Edinburgh Fringe cover. So we did this exactly the same way. That's actually 3 separate colours, a triptych. But we asked people what they wanted to see at the Fringe, and then I drew it and created this artwork. And another company that commissioned something similar was Smart Car, where they wanted me to doodle on the car of the future. So we asked people what they imagined the future would look like, and then I spent 2 days sitting on the floor drawing on this smart car. And the only thing that I can remember drawing is a gin and tonic making robot. Oh, that was a great suggestion. So that was how Twitter picture affected work. Next up, I wanted a high profile client, like super high. And for me, that meant Starbucks. So I lived in a flat around the corner from a Starbucks at that time, and I think that must have been the inspiration. But I wanted to do this red Starbucks Christmas cup. So I just started drawing Christmassy stuff on cups, and I would put them in boxes with like my CV or a nice letter and bits of my portfolio. And I sent them to the creative director and the CEO of Starbucks, both in the UK and the US, these beautiful packages. And I didn't send them once, I sent them weekly over a long period of time. I blogged about it, I posted it on my social media. And then I found their email addresses and I published them and encouraged other people to suggest to them that they commissioned me to do the Christmas cup, something that I probably wouldn't do now or advise. I started making my own red cups and I would leave them in random Starbucks. I shared the file for this artwork with friends around the world, and they were printing out the cup sleeves, sticking them to their cups and leaving them in Starbucks in London, in Edinburgh, in New York, in California. And in my head, I imagined there was some sort of Starbucks staff internal message board, and they would be sharing pictures of these random red cups that were appearing. And then they would go, oh yeah, it's that girl in Aberdeen, let's commission her. So I'm not sure if I charmed them, won them over with my creative talents, or just wore them down and they wanted it to stop, but Starbucks did commission me. So they called me down to their London office and explained they were opening a new store on Vigo Street in London, and they wanted me to design wallpapers and window decals and textiles that would flood this shop and make it super special and make it a slightly different coffee store to their normal ones. So it wasn't the Christmas cup, but it was indeed a commission from Starbucks. So last up in my little trio of self-initiated projects is Creative Review. So Creative Review is like the Financial Times of the UK creative industry. Everyone reads it and everybody wants to design the cover. It's a highly coveted job. So I wanted to design the cover. Obviously, I wasn't going to be asked, so I just made my own and I sent it to them and I blogged about it. And I gave them the odd nudge and I mentioned it on social media and they chuckled, and the editor said, yeah, maybe. And at roughly the same time, I was doing a project called Desktop Wallpapers, and I would make a new illustration every month, put it on my website and say to people, just download it for free, grab it, stick it on your desktop wallpaper, have it as the background on your monitor, just free, just give it away. And it was a nice opportunity to do a new piece of art for no reason other than I want to do it, and then to potentially get it out into the world. And they saw that. They saw this one here, a tree full of owls, and Creative Review asked if they could commission a similar piece, but not owls in a tree, monkeys in a tree. So there it is. I didn't get the front cover, but I got a nice big illustration in Creative Review. And to my mind, that was job done. And lots of people saw that illustration, including somebody that we'll come to in a little minute. So I continued working commercially. I stuck to my black and white. If a client liked my work enough and they really wanted colour, they were prepared to put the colour in themselves, like these guys here. In between commercial commissions, and there were dry spots, I would draw on shoes and then sell them on eBay. So I know some people in Dundee actually did buy these. And my client list began to grow. I eventually stopped all the part-time jobs and I was working 10, 12 hours a day, illustrating 6, sometimes 7 days a week. And by that point, I'd graduated from the desk in the corner of the living room, and I now had a flat with a spare bedroom. So I had a whole spare bedroom to myself, and I just worked like the clappers. And at that point, I hadn't really discovered audiobooks or podcasts. So I'd listen to Radio 4 when I was working. And if you're not in the UK, Radio 4 is like a talking radio station, quite highbrow actually. And just after midnight, every night, they play the shipping forecast and then the national anthem. And I would be sitting at my desk and hear the national anthem and have this weird moment of nationalistic pride and think, well, it's folks like us still working after midnight, listening to the national anthem that will keep the economy going. And I'm not sure if I did great work at that time of night, but that's where I was at. My social life was awful. I sacrificed loads of stuff. I missed loads of weddings, birthday parties, group dinners, but the practice was going really well and I was doing work that I loved. That was the most important thing. I was just drawing and I absolutely loved it. I did some really cool projects. I did my friend's album cover, and then I did Susan Boyle's album cover. And then in the oddest career highlight ever, I was commissioned by the Scottish Government to do the backdrop for the Proclaimers during an appearance they did at the London Olympics. I'll just let you think about that. And then in 2013, I did have my first solo show at the DCA. It was called Wonderlands, and I transformed the gallery into this black and white world. These were huge trees that were like massively bigger than I was, and you could sort of wander in and out them. Then we had a huge gallery with loads of black and white things. This was one little vignette. We had the inky bodies, and then that was a huge wall of different hand-printed black and white wallpapers in the background. It was so much fun, and I think I'm right in saying it was the gallery's most visited show that year. Then along came colouring books. So remember this picture? Well, one of the people that saw that piece that I'd hustled to get into Creative Review was an editor, and she phoned me up and said, we would love to commission you to make a children's colouring book. And I said, I'd love to make a colouring book, but I'm not really wanting to do a children's one. I'd like to do something for adults. It'll be elegant and sophisticated and have the same kind of illustrations that I'm doing for the perfume brands and the champagne companies, just really elevated and beautiful. And they went, yeah, we don't think that's a thing. I said, I think it could be a thing, adult colouring. So I drew up the first 5 pages, I sent it over, and then they were like, yeah, maybe, we'll give it a shot. And they drew up the contract, sent it over, and we were all set to go. And then I absolutely panicked. I looked at my current workload and what the contract was saying, and I would have 9 months to make this book, and it made no sense. I was a freelancer at that point and was maxed out. I was working non-stop. I had high-profile global clients. I had a waiting list. Financially, things were really good, and I was somehow going to spend 9 months making artwork for an adult colouring book that might never sell any copies. So when I'm feeling a bit out of my depth like that, I tend to ask people that are infinitely more intelligent than I am at business. So I asked business advisors, family members, mentors, loads of people working in industry, and they all said, nah, don't do it. That sounds majorly risky. I mean, adult colouring isn't even a thing. Who's going to buy that? But there was something in my heart was like, it's just, I have to do it. It's just such a funny, odd, weird opportunity. And it's something that I really, really want to do. So thankfully, I took the opportunity, signed the deal, and I have no idea how I squeezed it all in, but 9 months later, I'd made a book. And this was Secret Garden, and the initial print run was 13,000 copies. When I heard that number, I immediately phoned my mum and asked if her and her friends could buy a lot, because I was scared that if we didn't sell through the advance, I would have to give back the advance, and I'd already spent it. So there was a lot of panic. And it was this weird little adult colouring book, and nobody really knew where it went. Salespeople didn't know what section to put it in. We didn't know who would buy it. It was kind of floating about on Amazon. It was just odd. And I went back to freelancing, but then a funny thing started to happen. We were seeing sales ticking over. The foreign editions all got involved. And online, a community of people began to grow, and social media came along at just the right time for colouring, or maybe it was the other way around. But instinctively, when we make something beautiful, we want to show it off. And social media gave us that fantastic opportunity. We could create something really beautiful and then show it to the world. So 2014, we hit 100,000 copies. I was epically relieved. I thought that's the advance paid off. I'd had a baby. And a few months later, we hit 1 million, and adult colouring was news. Nobody saw it coming. It was just bananas. And in the same week, my website was hacked, and we found the first fake books coming out of China. And I was absolutely delighted. The entire team, the sort of publishers, editorial agents, were distraught. And I just thought, well, we've got fakes now. We've made it. So it was a funny kind of milestone. I was juggling being a new mum and having this massive opportunity. And one really cool thing that happened was lots of companies wanted me to endorse their art supplies. And out of all the offers that came in, I picked Statler because, if you remember, they were the pens that I'd been using since art school. I'd been recommending them for ages. And they were not the glossiest offer or the biggest financial package, but they were the one true endorsement that I could give. And because it was an exclusive deal and I wouldn't be able to speak about anyone else for a big long period of time, I knew it had to be the company that I trusted the most. So it was Statler. It was genuine and it felt right. And that was how I picked who I worked with. Method were another company that I really loved. I worked with them to create some packaging and a scent and loads of nice colouring downloads. And the reason that I'd got involved with them was because when Evie was 1, I'd posted a picture from her birthday. And if you can see right at the back there, there's 3 Method products on my kitchen counter. And that was how the whole Method thing started. It was something simple and honest and organic like that. And I just felt it was a great start to a work partnership. Meanwhile, licensing started. So licensing is when we take my artwork and apply it to a product, and then I'm paid royalties. And I had aspirations to be a bit of a lifestyle brand, like the next Orla Kylie or a Kath Kidston, and we were working with a lot of the same people. It was a super rapidly growing side of the business in the UK and the US. Around this time, I got invited down to Buckingham Palace to get an OBE, Prince William. Very kindly was having a bit of a chat. He asked when the baby was due and then casually mentioned that his wife's a big fan and she likes the colouring books. And that whole time, all I could think of was, I bet she's got really fancy colouring pencils. So then we just have this flurry of adult colouring. I made more books. Here's a few that you might recognise. Ivy and the Inky Butterfly had a story. We pushed hard on licensing. We did some nice stationery items and calendars. These are colouring canvases. And the team began to grow rapidly, and we headhunted some really senior people from the world of lifestyle branding. But as ever, I started to get a bit of a niggle. And I realized that licensing was a legal business, not necessarily a creative one. I was spending more and more time looking at 50-page contracts and less time looking at sketchbook, and it was bothering me. And we were on the cusp of hiring a very expensive in-house lawyer when I had this moment. So the only word I'm more uncomfortable with in entrepreneur is mumpreneur or mompreneur in the US. And basically because I know that baby would have spit up on her nice blazer, but on the right is reality. This was me not long after having Mia. I was still nursing her. I was like cramped into this crazy corner of my parents' chaotic kitchen, probably hadn't showered for days, just staring blankly at a contract, trying to remember my own name. And it was the craziest chapter of life. I'd had Mia and then gone back to work 9 days later because we had a big deadline. I took this tiny newborn baby and just popped her in a Moses basket under my desk, or had her in a sling and stood standing at my laptop. I had a newborn and a toddler and a book deadline and this growing full-time team of people that I was trying to manage. And it was massively overwhelming. And I started to think, when I'm on my deathbed, am I going to look back and think, I really wish we'd got the bed linen deal? Or am I going to look back and think, I really wish I'd gone to the park more or done a few more nursery runs? And when I raised this with people, the solution from the team at the time was that we should outsource the artwork creation. And they're like, this is how everyone does it. Orla doesn't draw all her own stuff. She has designers, they have a team. And I was sickened. I didn't think that this was what I'd signed up for. And I just thought, where are we going once again? And the final straw came as we were discussing quite a big endorsement deal. And there was a few things that I was uncomfortable with. And I remember raising a hand and saying, like, I don't think, no, I was just concerned. And I asked, what would other people do in this situation? Or what did so-and-so do if, when this deal was being negotiated? And the advice was they will shut up and take the money. That's what they said. They're like that. Yeah, well, normally the client would just shut up and take the money. And they laughed. And then there was a bit of a silence. It's like, it's not really a joke though, is it? Like, that's what you want me to do. And when I realized that was the direction we were going in, it was the wake up call that I needed. So needless to say, that all came to a swift end. And I realized that life isn't a race to see who can die with the most money. It's about finding a bigger purpose. And purpose is where this comes in. I read this quote, allegedly by Picasso: the meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose of life is to give it away. I've been receiving emails and messages for years from people who said that colouring really helped them practice mindfulness, relieved anxiety. It was from a wide demographic of people as well, like 911 call handlers and business execs and busy mums. And they all said that colouring allowed them to be creative, but also calm. And it really benefited their wellness and their mental health. And my purpose became clear. It was my job to inspire others to be creative. So I made some really tough decisions. I once was told that you don't wait until the 25th mile of a marathon to take a stone out of your shoe. So I sought a lot of advice, ignored it, as I usually do, and went with my heart. And that meant I put the brakes on, we stripped everything back. I went back to being just a girl in a studio drawing pictures. I then built an external team and a bank of freelancers, editors, agents, admin support, everything. And it wasn't a conscious decision, but it's 90% female and most of them are mothers. And I say that because I think if you want something done, a busy mum is an excellent multitasker. So going against commercial advice, it sounds like it was a really easy decision and yeah, I'll always do the right thing. But I have to be honest and say it was a difficult place to be. I had a nagging feeling that I was turning my back on an opportunity of a lifetime. And also in that circumstance, everybody wants to sue you. So it was difficult, and it wasn't born of a desire to work less, but more of one to do more work that makes me happy. And I'd had a light bulb moment, and that was that running a business for me isn't the destination, it's just the vehicle. being in business allows me the opportunity to create a life that I love. And that's why I was doing it, not for the sake of being a business person. So the adult colouring category continued to grow. We found new ways to inspire. I dipped my toe in the how to draw world. And again, people thought I was crazy. Like, why are you giving away all your secrets? People will stop buying your colouring books and just draw their own pictures. But they'd missed the point. The point wasn't to sell a certain number of books. It was to inspire people to be creative. I doubled down and did a 10-day free online drawing course. 15,000 people did it live with me, and even more have done it since. And book sales continue to go well. It didn't have a bad effect in the slightest. But skills and technique are just half the battle. You need confidence as well. And so many people told me that the blank canvas was scary, and I got it. It's scary for me as well. So in the spirit of camaraderie, I tackled the world's largest blank sheet of paper and broke the Guinness record. It was over 500 square meters. And fun fact, I did it in 12 hours straight, not because there's a time limit on that particular record, but because I couldn't get a babysitter. So I had to do it in 12 hours, but we got it. And then along came 2020. So we had lockdowns, school closures, a whole ton of fear, a physical health catastrophe, but also a mental health problem, like a really big one. And I was scared too. It was a tough time for business, but I'm a big believer that your toughest challenge is also your biggest opportunity. And I just thought if ever the world needed creativity and colouring, it was now. Like the mission was clear. So I did loads of free downloads. I even made a free colouring book that we gave away. I did these daily live streams, mainly from my studio, occasionally from my cupboard, hiding from my children. And I would show people tutorials, demonstrations. We'd speak about pens and pencils. My daughter Evie got involved in the act. She had her own series of tutorials. And the aim was just to inspire people and spread a little bit of joy. And the response was overwhelming. People were finding it so helpful in calming anxiety, beating isolation, keeping people calm and connected. And I got so many wonderful messages. They would regularly reduce me to tears. Most poignantly, I got a message from a consultant anaesthetist in London, and she explained to me that her and her team were putting people to sleep before they put them onto the ventilators. So this was last spring. And it was just a completely harrowing time. And she said that they'd found colouring really helpful and they were doing it in between shifts. And while this was all going on, I was making a new book. So in a year when we couldn't go anywhere, I used the making of Worlds of Wonder, a chance to escape and go on these incredible adventures. It would take you to weird and wonderful imagined realms, from floating islands to treetop castles to underground cities. I just love the idea that a book could be a magical portal and transport you somewhere else. And after the weirdest year of making a book, it's finally going to be out on the 1st of April. And I'm just so excited to see that circle come round. So to sum up, I was asked to give my 3 top tips. It's quite a long slide there, but the nugget in here, number 1, be ambitious. Nobody goes to the train station without any idea of where they want to go. I wanted to get the school art prize. I want to get the best mark in my class. I want to have the publisher's most successful book of the year. You have to aim high so that you've got somewhere to aim at. So be super ambitious. This is the book that quote is from. Really good, thin book. Recommend it highly. Number 2, be resilient. So for those of you that don't know, this is the Royal College of Art in London, the most prestigious art school in the world. And in 2005, I applied and was rejected. Didn't even have an interview, just rejected. And for years, I saved that rejection letter until I realized that it wasn't a rejection letter, it was a permission slip. It was permission to get on and to tackle new things and to keep going. And I often think those that make it aren't more talented, more lucky, or any of those things. They just fail and learn and keep going. You have to be resilient. Last up, sneaky 2 tips here. 1, work hard. There's no getting around it. You just have to do it. And number 2 is to be nice. If you're not being a decent human, what's the point? I just think you need grit and grace at all times, especially in business. So I wondered how to end this not massively businessy business talk, and I thought I'd share one last quick personal story. So here it is. For years, advisors and clients, journalists, and even well-meaning relatives have said to me, it's great that you're doing all this and that you're here despite being creative and not really a business person. And I'd nod and agree. I hate spreadsheets. I'm really uncomfortable in a negotiation. I'm happier with pens and pencils than with a financial forecast. But maybe I'm not here despite of all those things. Maybe I'm here because of them. I think the world needs the Steve Jobs and the Elon Musks, no doubt about it. But I also think there's space for a different kind of business and a different kind of business person. And that might be people like you. It's definitely people like me. And that's folks that work hard with grit and grace and make good stuff, but don't want to hire a CFO, don't want to answer to a board of directors. I don't even really want business cards. I think there's space for all of us. And COVID this year in particular has made so many people reevaluate their life, where it's going, the work that they're doing. And if you are sitting there thinking, I've got this thing, but I'm not a business person, then I think you need to explore it. You really do. The world needs more people doing the work that sets their soul on fire and building the lives that they love, because we only get one chance. So if you're like me, you might not want to be a business person, but business might be the tool to allow you to do that. So to sum up, begin, keep going, and good luck.
Well, Johanna. Well, Johanna, that was outstanding. I said at the beginning, you're an inspiration, and one of the messages that's come across more than any other in the questions and comments is quite how inspiring you are and you've been. It was an incredibly inspiring talk, really inspiring stories, and the message that's come over loud and clear is how much what you've done and your colouring books and your other products have really helped people through the lockdown. There are a whole number of comments there about how you've reignited people's creativity, how you've kept their mental health going, and some pleas for more products actually. And one that I particularly pick up on is, can we have more note cards, please, so they can be coloured in and sent to friends, so that you can help people in the creativity. So lots and lots of questions. Let's get stuck into some. I've tried to group them, which I've probably done a terrible job of, but I'll do my best. Let's start off with a really, really simple one. So you talked about you're taking the bitumen paint and painting somewhere at the age of 3. But when did you start drawing? What was the inspiration behind the drawing bug?
I'm one of those really irritating people that has just always loved the thing that they do, and I can't remember a time when I haven't loved drawing. When I was little, as in like playgroup, I remember the drawing table being the place that I wanted to go, and I've always had an eye for really detailed work. My mum remembers a story where age 4 or 5 I was asked to draw a self-portrait, and I drew a person with like eyelashes and fingernails and a belly button. So I think forever is the answer, and I've always been interested in the details.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So always interested in the details, and just as a little bit of detail, probably my favorite bit was a backdrop for Proclaimers actually, but that just tells you more about me than it does about you. So then there's a whole bunch of questions about what inspires you, and if I can just kind of run through some of these questions and maybe we can group them together. So First of all, what inspires you in the art world more generally? What has inspired you in delivering your colouring books? So what's the thing that's really gets you excited, and what do you do when you're trying to work but you're not inspired?
That's a lot of questions pretending to be one, so I'll tackle it bit by bit. What inspires me, I would say, isn't really other people's art. I try not to look at things that are in a similar field to mine, basically because I'm a sponge and I know I'll look at it, remember it, and it'll accidentally come out and I'll think that it's my work, and it's not. It's just something that I've seen and I've copied. So I'm really vigilant in that. I do like looking at other things that inspire me that aren't directly related. So whether that's sculpture or a really cool font or beautiful floral design or packaging. Mainly though, I like nature. I think nature is just the biggest resource of inspiration for anybody. And going for a walk and being outdoors and surrounded by flowers is always going to be my happy place. And the days that I don't have any ideas are few and far between. I think more it's a frustration that the thing I've imagined in my head can't come out onto the paper. And in those circumstances, I step away from the desk, don't go on Pinterest, it's never a good idea, and find that a walk outside is what is my reset button. And by the time I come back to the desk, I'm ready to pick up the pen and tackle something new.
Fantastic. Fantastic, and I've just noticed somebody's proposing you for the Nobel Peace Prize for your inspiration. So I think that's great advice on how to can remotivate yourself, go out and get back to that inspiration and soak it in. Then there's some questions about what's been most enjoyable. So two questions grouped as one. The first is, what's been your most enjoyable experience when you've been doing your colouring books? And the second question is, what's been the most difficult and challenging book to make?
So the most enjoyable thing is seeing the coloured pictures that people share with me, either on the internet or they send them along to the studio. I think of every single book as a collaboration, and although I draw the hand-drawn black and white artwork, those books aren't finished and those pictures aren't finished until the person who has the book has coloured them in and completed them. So it is a collaboration. And it is the greatest honour to say that I've collaborated with literally millions of people around the world. I don't think there's many artists that can say that. It's definitely my claim to fame. And it's a very humbling experience. So that's definitely the absolute peak. What was the second part? What's the most difficult thing? The most difficult book to make. I would say it was Ivy and the Inky Butterfly, purely because most of it was made while I was either super pregnant, and it's really difficult to draw when you're quite far away from a desk, or with a newborn baby in tow. And I think that finding the space to do creative work when you're that overwhelmed with just real life was tricky. But I would say that I found it wasn't difficult work. It wasn't like I was going to a job that I really struggled at or I didn't want to do. I think it was just literally more a logistics kind of issue.
Great. And so I guess picking up from that, looking back so far, what's the one you're most fond of? What would be, your desert island book, the one that you would never give up on?
That is like asking a mother who her favourite child is, and although she secretly has one, she will never ever admit it. But I always say the one that I've just finished is the most exciting one. It's the one that I can't wait to share with everyone. So in this case, it's Worlds of Wonder. And because this book was created almost completely in lockdown, it's always going to have a very special memory for me as well.
Fantastic. Fantastic. That's great, Johanna, and I'm impressed that you answered the question, because it is the great unanswerable question, as you say. So then we've got a whole range of questions about asking you for advice, to those who I suppose are looking to follow in the footsteps of your inspiration. So let's start off with, I think, the toughest one. They're going to get easier. The toughest one, I think, is, what's the one piece of advice, and the question does say one piece of advice, that you give to young creatives, current students, recent graduates, students at DJ CAD, the one bit of advice that you'd say, don't forget? What would it be?
I would say work hard. There's nothing that gets around that. You have to work hard, and to recognize that loads of other people are working hard as well. So unless you're doing something that's different, that's going to get you noticed, you know, it's a struggle. And I think so many people are swayed by X Factor and think a Simon Cowell is going to shine a beam of light on you and it's all just going to happen. And, you know, what was your breaking moment? And the reality was, I spent a whole lot of time on overnight megabuses to London. Like, there was years and years and years of grit. I've been doing this since 2006. It was by no means an overnight show. You really just have to buckle down and do the work. And yeah, it's just work hard.
Well, as a university principal, I love that message, work hard. And I think that also picks up on another question which was asked about how do you establish the pipeline? Is it all hustle? Is it online, offline hustle? And I guess from what you're saying is, it is just working hard.
Yeah, I think so. I think you need to make sure that you are taking care of yourself. There's no point in working so hard that your physical health takes a battering, because then you can't do anything. So it is about striking a balance. For me personally, I'm really glad that I worked super hard in my 20s, because in my 30s, when I had a young family, it would be difficult to replicate what I was doing then now. But there's always ways around it. And I think finding a good balance of creating new work, of meeting people. I'm not a fan of networking, but I understand the benefit of it. And just trying to think of ways that you can serve your audience and your community. I think when you strip it back to that, that's a really interesting area to look at. And, you know, for me, it means serving my community and making things to help inspire them and for them to be creative. And when I look at it that way, you know, the opportunities and the things that I should do are, you know, like, they're endless. And I think when I think about it that way, as opposed to how can I sell more books, make this amount of money, blah, 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 like, for me, that wouldn't work. But in terms of how to serve my community, that's what, pushes me forward, I think.
Great. And so you talked about, you shared with us the journey, and it's a journey really throughout your life. You've really impressed us with that determination, that hard work, that persistence. My goodness me, that persistence, that creativity, and that delivery. But of course, others take a different route through life and may have a creative background, a degree like yours, but life's taken them elsewhere, and then they want to come back to creativity. Have you got any words of advice on how someone might kind of begin to tip their toe back into that creative lifestyle, that harnessing their creativity after a few years away?
Yeah, just start. I think the longer you think about it, the more difficult it is. It's like getting into the swimming pool. Just get in. If you have another job and you're working in a different field, like, I'm not one of those people. It's like, yeah, quit your job and start your career as an artist tomorrow. I think you have to be sensible. Develop a hobby, a side hustle, do the things on the side that you need to do until it's established. Just the same way as I had all those part-time jobs. Like, that's what I had to do to get the foundations going. But thinking about a thing or wishing it would happen or the circumstances would be ideal for something to happen, it's pointless. You just have to make the decision and begin.
Well, I think just getting on with it is something that's come across so strongly from everything you said to us over the last hour or so, and it's at the end of the day, being in control of your own destiny, getting on with it and doing it is a superb message. We've also got a range of questions about your style, and some questions about how your style's evolved, what different techniques you've used. Could you say something about how your personal drawing style has evolved, and whether your favorite techniques have changed as you've gone through your career?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a boringly short answer in that it's very similar to what I did at art school. So everything I do is hand drawn. It begins as a really simple drawing on paper. I use a clicky pencil, and I just draw it out on paper. Then I put a new sheet over the top and redraw in ink. And that's the way I was doing artwork when I was in 4th year and at art school. And some might say, oh, you should have progressed, but I think I finessed it for sure. You know, I've worked out exactly what papers to use, how long you need to leave ink to dry, all those good things. And then once the artwork is finished, I scan it into the computer and finalize it and do any sort of digital tweaks. And I would say for me, the computer is always a tool. Like, it's never the thing that I use to create work. It's a tool for finishing, finessing, and then sending artwork onwards to clients. So I use it for example, for erasing chocolatey fingerprints off drawings. Like, that's the level of my computer input when it comes to creativity. But for me, you know, I just really like drawing, and there's often opportunities to explore and use other techniques in other work. But for my commercial work, I find that I just want to get really good at one very specific thing. And there's something deeply joyous for me about being a super geek in my individual realm. Like, I love speaking about pens. I had a great collaboration with Statler where we went and saw how the pens and pencils are made. I could tell you loads about paper, especially about erasers, which is the best pencil sharpener in the world. So I think there's just something for me deeply joyous about being a pen and pencil geek.
Well, so I'm not sure that geek could be the word that I would use to describe what I've heard in the last hour, but you said it. So let's take you back to art school, and you told us a lot about the application that you really brought to your work, and so you used the word geek to talk about calculating the hours that you could spend doing what really driving you. What did your tutors think of you? Did they admire you? Did they support you? Did they try and push you in other directions? My comment is you're really not a one-trick pony, but if you think you were, what did your tutors think?
You would have to ask them. Francis is still there. I think my mission at art school was to just get my head down and work really hard, and I felt very lucky to be at Duncan of Jordanstone while I was there. I knew from friends that were at other art schools that we had a good deal. We had good studio space, good technicians, good access to resources. And I think my overwhelming feeling was, I have this incredible opportunity to be for 4 years in this art school, which so many people wanted to be at, and I'd managed to get a place that I wanted to squeeze every last bit of potential out of that. And to feel that I'd spoken to all the different departments, that I'd, dipped my toe in this and that. And I think, I don't know, I was just in my own wee world in art school. I found that after the first couple of years of the excitement of it, I just found it to be such an all-encompassing pursuit. And I just loved it. It was a tremendous privilege, and I was determined to make the most of it. I wanted to come out at the end of those 4 years with enough of a foundation to project a life from. So that was my aim. Well,
it's a world that you shared 21 million books. It's a world that you're sharing now. I mean, you really have lived up to that Picasso quote, and much more to go. So let's go there. What's next? What's what's the next great thing? What's the next great vision? Somebody asked, how about wallpaper that we can self-color? What's the future?
Well, just on colouring wallpaper, we've tried that, and I'll tell you now, it just gets very messy very quickly. So that's a no for now. For me, I'm not sure what the exact destination is. The only thing that remains a true constant for me is a dedication to the purpose, which is to inspire others to be creative. So I'm actually already working on 2 new books that will be out with Penguin Random House, my publishers, and a variety of other things that we're working on. But I think the main thing that I've learned over this past year is that plans change, circumstances change, and you have to be super flexible and adaptable. So if you told me a year ago that I would be doing, like we do, a live tutorial every day from the studio and 20,000 people view it, I would never have believed that we would do that, if we would give away books for free, all those good things. So I think COVID has been a really good exercise in keeping true to your purpose, but finding other ways to make it work, being flexible.
And of course you've been, and you continue to be, actually growing as a great influencer, and you've used social media to do that incredibly effectively. Is that something that is all about your own thinking, your own ideas? There's a question about, have you used advisors in how you reach out and create that sense of mindfulness that you've done so effectively through social media?
Yeah, I think the social media for me is just a window into the studio. It's just a way of me. I mean, I live back in rural Aberdeenshire. I'm not in the middle of London or New York or Sao Paulo or any of the places where people look at my work and see what I do. But social media is just a really incredible way for me to open up the studio doors and allow people in and speak to them directly. And we've toyed with the idea of having, whether I would hire someone to help me do social media content. And I was never quite comfortable with that because it feels like such a personal conversation for me anyway. And I never wanted to lose that and have somebody be my voice. So for me, social media is a wonderful tool. I'm super, super grateful to have it. And it allows me to be in a unique position where I can have a conversation with my customers and with the audience and the people that buy my books. And sometimes that's difficult because you have to receive feedback that's maybe not as rosy as you would hope, but it's always useful things. So there's things, for example, that we've learned about the books, about specific papers or the way the artwork is positioned or the way that we use a binding. And those are all things that we learned, that I learned thanks to social media. So it's just a really amazing way to have a real-time engaged conversation with people that then helps me make better stuff. So I find it really, really useful, if a little overwhelming at times.
Fantastic. Well, I think we're overwhelmed by your use of social media, Johanna, is the honest answer there. So perhaps the penultimate question that I might ask is, you talked about mental health, and you've mentioned mental health and wellness and well-being a number of times through your talk, and as so many people commenting have said, you've contributed so much to mental health and well-being, particularly during lockdown. So there's a question about, how conscious have you been about doing that? How deliberative has that the sense of Johanna Basford putting her creative talents at the services of those in lockdown? You talked a little bit about this, but could you say more about how you've approached and thought about helping us with our mental health over these past few months?
Yeah, I think initially with adult colouring as a whole, producing colouring books to aid wellness or mindfulness or any of those things wasn't the intention. I literally just wanted to make something pretty that I thought myself and a few of my friends might like to buy. And it wasn't until people started commenting on the, like the positive effects that it was having on them, that I would read those notes and be like, yeah, that's actually how I feel when I'm drawing. I get really in flow, hours can slip by, you are just in this wonderful analog process of putting pencil to paper, and it's really soothing. It's like a tonic, a balm. So it wasn't intentional, but once it was highlighted to me, I could see why people would appreciate those things and have those feelings towards it. So when COVID came along, I think we were all, to use the word again, overwhelmed with the news, and most of it was coming in via our screens. And one thing I'm passionate about is the digital detox. And as much as I love social media, it also has a dark side. And I think for a while we were getting so caught up with the news cycle and what was going on. And it was really difficult to step away from that and to find some space just to be still and to really reflect on the things that have happened. And I think colouring is a wonderful analog activity that doesn't involve an app. I will never do an app. It doesn't involve any screens. You're just doing it purely digitally. And when you do go online within the colouring and creative world, it's a very sort of it's a very protected environment. You're not getting buffeted by all the news things. And I think as well, in times of in tricky times, I especially have a very rambling imagination, and I think unless I channel that, it just spirals. And at the times last year when things were sort of looking their gloomiest, I knew that if I didn't funnel my attention into something and my creativity and my imagination, it was going to go to a dark place. So for me, being creative is just a really wonderful, soothing outlet and a place to get all that energy down so it doesn't do all those other things and derail your day. So I think that's it. I think colouring and creativity in general is just a wonderful way to boost your mental wellness. And I'm delighted that people have found it useful during COVID. I hope I know we've helped more than a few people. And that's like, yeah, it's an honour. I couldn't go to a hospital and work on the front line, but I can make some colouring books.
Well, I think you've contributed hugely to all of our well-being. That's just so obvious from all the messages that have come across. And I talked about my pride. All of our pride in what you've done really is phenomenal. So Johanna, we're coming to, I guess, the end of our conversation. You've been incredibly generous to us over the last hour, and of course you're a very generous and dynamic person. Is there any kind of final thoughts that you'd want to leave your fans, those you inspire, truly around the world with?
Yeah, I think in terms of creativity, we are all born creative. And I think it's a myth if you're sitting there and thinking that you're not. No toddler holds a packet of crayons and is racked by self-doubt. We were all able to draw as kids. You just need to unlearn all the things that you've developed as an adult. And when you're being creative, I genuinely think you can access a level of happiness and joy that you can't get other ways. So be creative. And then secondly, with my business hat on, somewhat awkwardly, I would just reiterate that the world needs all kinds of people and all kinds of businesses. And just because you don't fit that cookie cutter business person, entrepreneur, whatever, it doesn't mean that this world isn't for you. You just have to view the business as the tool to get you to where you want to be, to build that life that you love. And when you view it that way, I think business and being your own boss and running your own gig, it just becomes this whole different thing. You don't have to employ millions of people or be a FTSE 100 company or any of those weird things that I don't really know what they are. You just have to be your own boss and in charge of your own life and your own direction. And I think that's a fantastic opportunity that more of us should realise that we have the ability to pursue.
Fantastic. And Johanna, it's in recognition of that determination and that being true to yourself and that creativity underpinning your great entrepreneurial acumen and success, that we're delighted that only for the second time in the university's history, and you have to show it now, show it as soon as I stop talking, the Entrepreneurial Recognition Award from the university for Johanna Basford. Johanna, speak and share it with us.
Here it is, a little bit of sheet of paper so you can see it. Thank you so much. It is the biggest honour to get any award, particularly one for business, because I don't think it's really my strong suit. But it's the second thing that I've got from Dundee that I'm very proud of, the first being my degree. So thank you ever so much.
And Dundee remains very proud of you. And to say a few more words on that, I'm going to hand over now to Anita Taylor, the Dean of DJ CAD, your alma mater. Anita, over to you. Thank you so much, Johanna.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Johanna. It's my role to give the vote of thanks this evening, but what an inspiring, fabulous presentation that you gave us, and an amazingly inspiring journey and career, and something that really is a fantastic message about believing in yourself and believing in your passions and finding what those passions are and finding a way to live through those. For me in particular, and that idea of making a life in and through drawing, I think is particularly inspiring. And I'm sure that you've inspired others this evening to think about how they become creative. They've really engaged with your journey and the opportunity, the invitation that you've given, which I think is so generous and wonderful, the invitation for everyone to join in your drawings as a collaborative act, I think is extremely special. The commitment that you have to a drawing community, to engaging with people across the world is astonishing, and we're incredibly proud to have you as one of our alumni. Francis Stevenson is in the audience, who said that you were the hardest working student ever. And I'm sure that's absolutely true. That message of working hard, following your passion, finding a way to be who you want to be through your leading passion, I think is fantastic. And what a fabulous ambassador for creativity, for drawing, for DJ CAD, and for the university. It's a really heartfelt thank you. And congratulations. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of our audience for joining us this evening. Thank you for the Centre for Entrepreneurship for organising this wonderful event. And thank you for everyone who's joined us from across the world, who shares the passion that you've inspired them with. Thank you.
Thank you.